Did you see the Doctor Who last night? Oh, it was terrific. He was captured by these cavemen, and they wanted him to make fire because they saw him light a match earlier, and then um, Susan, Ian, and Barbara tried to rescue him, but then they all were captured and they were taken this cave of all these skeletons and had this. Oh man, their skulls had been split open. Man, it was pretty gnarly. Yeah, I can't wait to see the next week's episode. Yeah, that was really exciting. Yeah, I love it. It's a good show, man. Now, obviously, years and years and years and years later, in the grand scheme of this series that went from 63 to 89, it's difficult to look at. When one is watching this show, knowing that it goes for, and knowing what it is, and knowing that it goes for as long as it does, of all this great variety of creatures and planets and, imaginative manifestations, it's difficult to get excited about the caveman drama of an unearthly child. Now, even watching it at the time, one can imagine if one was over the age of, say, 14 or 15, it would be a bit laughable, the fact that they're treating this, Stone Age Quest for Fire-esque narrative like it's, play of the day. And, it's less effective than Quest for Fire for obvious reasons, and obviously that film doesn't have any dialogue. It's less effective than that silly Iron Maiden song. I still like that song, actually. There's no bad songs on the Peace of Mind album, in my opinion. As we all know, classic Doctor Who can sometimes suffer from being forced to relegate a storyline over 4 specific episodes wherein 3 might have surfaced. An Unearthly Child is definitely an example of this. If it were 3 episodes, I was going to say maybe even 2 episodes, but I think if they could keep the first episode as it was and have a second episode entirely of, the Stone Age nonsense, although maybe 1 episode of the introduction and then a further 2 for the caveman stuff rather than 3 would be more apt. I'm not certain. When one has no idea where the show will go next, circa 1963, 64, God goodness, is An Unearthly Child Part 2 exciting. Well, at the time it was referred to as, they used to have unique titles rather than just the name of the serial, Part 1, 2, 3, 4. Or however many it went for. This one's titled The Cave of Skulls rather than An Unearthly Child Part 2 at the time. You would be so excited to see what would happen next at the time, although, again, as I kind of stated earlier, when you're sitting down to binge classic Doctor Who and you have an idea of what's going to occur in the series, aliens, time travel, planet hopping, the fate of the universe itself hanging in the balance at times, yeah, there's something about this Quest for Fire-esque silliness which can appear very drab and dated and stupid, and you're watching it for the first time and you're thinking, oh gee, in the 21st century you're watching it, let's say you're a fan of the newer program, Tennant, Smith, Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, and you're watching the older program and you're just like, oh, this is silly garbage, I don't want to watch this. It's easy to understand how that happens, although just doing a little bit of mental gymnastics and placing oneself in 1963 or 4, whenever this aired, I think it was still 63. I think the show started airing in November 63, so it wasn't airing in 63 very long. The first season was mostly 64, would have been. You would have been enamored with it at the time. Looking at it now, there is still a means of enjoying it in retrospect, as a kind of the modest beginnings of one of the grandest sagas, ever told. If you want to go that far, the first Doctor through to the 7th, the adventures of the first time the Doctor was traveling with human companions. Yeah, it's an interesting era, and there's a certain coziness about it. It's like, wow, the adventure's just beginning here. I think there is an appeal in that. You just have to get through the the caveman equivalent of the Wednesday play, apparently, and it's just not that exciting. When it is that. But when it's Doctor Who, it's pretty cool. It's just, I guess, occasionally Doctor Who had to fill time and they, put in some caveman drama. There wasn't much on television back then, They had to think of something.